What's up? Today I want to talk about the 3 states of matter and the importance of the number 3. Okay, so I'm going to start off by saying if you have a graph and you put 1 point in the line, or 1 point anywhere on the graph, you have 1 point. You have one solution to whatever equation you're trying to solve. If you put a second point, you get a line. And the line is the first 2D representation of matter. So if you get a line, you have 2 points, and you add a third point, you get your first shape. And it's important that the third point is the first shape and not the second, because 2D is flat. It's only this plane of existence. And 3D would be this plus this and everything in between. So that's how you get a shape, and that's how you get things in your world, in our world, in this world, that are shaped. That's why you don't have just like misconfigured things and things moving and shaping and shifting in and out and shit like that, because everything is bound by points when in this infinite graph, pretty much. So that being said, each shape works fundamentally different when you change the matter that you're using. So the reason why 3 phases of matter are important, or 3, I guess, versions of matter are important, is because, let's say you have water, for example. Water is a liquid by default. It's a natural liquid, which is more dense than air, less dense than solid, right? Or a gas, I should say, and solid. So water is like the midway, the segue between air and the segue between solid. Now, you can tell that everything is related in this universe by these really simple simple science. It's really, really, really simple to understand the 3 phases of matter. And if you look at how each function and each shape themselves to fit in this infinite graph that we live in, you can tell that beyond this, our world, our earth, that we truly will never know what's really going on. So let's start by saying this. Water, if you take your hand in a pool and you move it back and forth, you can see the air bubbles come in, you can see the water move, and you can see everything being displaced, right? You can see water displacement from your hand. Let's assume for a second that water and air and solid matter all acted the same in some way. What way would that be, you might ask? Everything vibrates. Everything has a specific frequency. So let's say water. If I take a cup of water, or if I take this, for example, this smart water with fucking tang in it, I'm vibrating it right now. I stop. It's still moving. That means that in a container, if you have motion, and if you have energy input, you get vibration, and you get the changing position of matter. The way this directly relates to frequency is that my energy is being put into this bottle, which at its base level is still. If I didn't touch it and nobody interacted with it, and it was protected from the earth, like the wind and shit, it would be still. It would just sit there. So it's reacting with its container being moved, being energy inputted into it for direction to change it, right? And the interesting thing about this is that you automatically have 2 ways that solids and liquids function similarly. And how is that? You can move them both. You can put energy into both of them to change their positions. What does this mean in a bigger picture perspective? So, everything in the world reacts to input. Everything in the world reacts to energy, and it reacts to frequencies and vibrations. You should know this if you are listening to any of what I'm saying right now. So just keep going with me, because now I'm going to start bridging shit and just stop talking about fucking bullshit. So, sonic booms. Air and water act similarly in this way. If you run your hand through water, if you put that energy into water, you can see your water sonic boom pretty much. The density of the water being folded in on itself because of the pressure that you're applying with air and solid mass, right? So you do this to just air, like let's say in a jet plane. You can see an air bubble literally form around the plane, and the nose of the plane will stick through it, then poke through, and then the whole plane will go through. And this in turn creates the breaking of the sound barrier, right? If it's the breaking of the sound barrier, why do we see air, right? Why can we visibly see it change shape? Why can we see it pop almost? And you can see it not just on the plane, you can see I'll call it like rebound or something, or like the recoil of it further and further out from the plane, like it's really in a bubble. And that is how air and water relate directly. So the difference between solid and liquid is that the density is changed, right? The density is what is important. So the more dense you get, you can't go through it. My energy cannot interact with this in the correct frequency or vibration to go through it, for now. But let's say if I poured all of this water into a glass and I stuck my finger into I said water, tang, into the glass, right? I can go through it because it's not as dense, because it's not as heavy, and it's not as still as, let's say, solid. So to be solid, you need to be still, right? To be liquid, you need to be able to move, right? And to be air, you need to be light. You need to be less dense than anything around you. So, with that being said, what truly is air? If you can pop air, but they'll call it a sound barrier being broken, what truly is air? Is air sound, or is air another bubble, like water per se? Like, let's say you have water in the ocean. That's one large bubble of water, right? Then you have you have air in our atmosphere, and that's another large bubble of water, pretty much. Because air is like water, and water is like solid. So if you continue that line down the reasoning path, you'll get that air is like a really huge bubble, or an ocean, really, in our sky. So if you break past this bubble, if you leave this bubble somehow, where do you go? You go into the vacuum of space, right? That's why you can't hear sound in space, because there's an absence of air and an absence of gravity and an absence of solids and liquids and anything to travel frequencies. So let's say that this is what the Bible was talking about the firmaments being above and below. The firmaments with the stars is just like the firmaments here on earth. The Bible was talking about solids, liquids, and gases, even without talking about solids, liquids, and gases. It was trying to say that devoid of this atmosphere, we are nothing, literally. There is vacuum. There is nothing. And that's God, and that's heaven. And all the planets there, they're beings within nothing who create their own life. And those are gods. These are the gods in Greek times, I should say, not in the Bible, because God in the Bible is a completely different story. So, if you have nothing to interact with in vacuum, then you only have limitless potential. Therefore, why would people not think that aliens exist, for one? Aliens being people who don't live here. I'm talking like a civilization from somewhere else that we don't have contact with, don't know its existence, have no footprints of. Why would people think that we are the only things here? If there's limitless potential within the infinite expanses of the vacuum beyond our bubble of air, what makes people think that there's nothing else? And I know I took a really, really long way and complicated way of getting there, but truly it's just like, I'm trying to break it down for as many people in the future as I can. Like, it's not about today, because I know this bubble will pop pretty much. So I think we all should be thinking about what's beyond this bubble. And I think we all should be thinking about what would happen if we no longer could live in this bubble. And I think we all should be thinking about, what if we were forcibly taken out of this bubble? I think that we should figure out enough ways to be okay, and our lineages to be okay. Even if that means just fucking putting sperm in an embryo and freezing it, and then sending our spaceship 450 million light years away to an inhabitable planet just for a timer to kick back on and fucking impregnate it or some shit, and then get a magic baby out of nowhere. Just build babies in test tubes and fucking inhabit another planet. I would do some shit like that if the human race was about to die and I was about to be eliminated and I had the funds and resources. So what I'm saying is, we should be able to gather the funds and resources to take human destiny into our own hands and not depend on this bubble, because this is only a finite amount of air in this bubble. Yes, there's literally tons and tons of it, but there's a finite amount of air in this bubble, and the more that we put toxins and the more we put negative shit into the bubble, that's what we'll have to breathe in, and that's what we'll have to get out of the bubble. After a while, it's going to become poisonous to us, and it probably already is, and that's probably why we see tons of cancers and shit on the rise and not on the decline, despite the fact that medical technology is supposed to be getting state-of-the-art and at its best of all time. We're seeing more deaths from completely untreatable illnesses. That doesn't ring any bells. It doesn't fucking alarm anybody. But we need to get off this planet sooner or later. It doesn't have to be our lifetime or the next one in the next 1,000 years, but it's going to have to happen. And at the rate we're at, we probably will see that within 50 years. We'll probably see that even sooner than that, but I'm saying 50 years to give myself fucking cover. But yeah, we can't trap ourselves within this world, because then we'll only think of this world, and we're not of this world. We're everything. We're limitless energy beings. We can transform ourselves into anything. We're literally liquid, solids, and gas converters. We're universe converters. That's what our bodies are. So why would you not think that the thing that you can see is not the most basic form? Because it's a shape, right? It's the third unit that you need to be in existence. So it is not the first thing. You're not the body first. You're the body last, because it's the most dense of you. So what I'm saying by that is your body is of earth. Yeah, your mind is your mind is of somewhere else. I'll put it that way, simply. The thing that dictates who you are and the thing that watches what dictates who you are not of this world. So that means, where are we? And that also means that you cannot bound yourself to earth knowledge, because then you will only get earth knowledge answers. And we're not from earth. Our body is sure, but we are not from earth. That being said, matter is all that matters. All right.